So everybody, welcome to the March meeting of the Indicio Identity Community Meetup. I'm Helen Garneau. I do marketing here at Indicio. We are very happy to be offering this series of meetups through Indicio's status as a public benefit corporation. We offer these meetups as an opportunity to learn and connect and find out more from one another of what we're doing across the verifiable credentials and identity space. So hopefully you're here to learn, ask questions, and meet other folks, because that's what we aim to do. With that said, we will have a bit of Q&A time at the end, but feel free to pop questions in the chat as we go. I'll keep an eye on the chat, and I think Trevor, who will be our host for today, will also keep track as well. We have two awesome speakers today talking about different kind of perspectives and looks at the digital identity space and education. And so we're really excited to hear from them. Just one other thing, if you ever could keep your cameras off unless you're speaking or asking a question, that would be great. Otherwise, I will toss it to Trevor to do introductions. So enjoy.
Thank you, Helen. Good evening from Dublin, Ireland, and it's my pleasure to have Jerry Henn with us this evening. He is a Assistant Executive Director of USA Kansas, which he will tell us about brief shortly. And we have James Schulte from Indicio, and you know what? Why don't you guys tell our listeners more about who you are and where you're from?
Well, I will go ahead and go first. First of all, thank you for the invite, and I'm looking forward to this meeting and giving you some information in regards to our information towards credentialing. So I am Jerry Henn. I have 35 years of experience, building experience within Kansas in the educational setting. 9 years of teaching and the rest as a building administrator. The last 6, I was a superintendent of schools in the great state of Kansas. Lived here all my life, got a wonderful wife, 3 kids, and they are fantastic people to be a part of, and I always enjoy being around my children. So excited to be here, and then I'll let James go, and then I guess I'll jump in and talk a little bit more about USA.
Great. All right. Well, yeah, my name is James Schulte. I'm Vice President of Business Development here at Indicio, and I'm currently in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I'm excited to see Kaber here in the chat, who's also in Ann Arbor. Great place. Go Blue, just down the road from University of Michigan. I have been in the decentralized identity space, some call SSI, verifiable credential space, for, I believe coming up on a little over 5 years now. And yeah, we're really excited to talk with Jerry about what they're doing with verifiable credentials in the education space. And today I'll be talking a little bit more about Open Badges 3.0 and some of the insights into the education sector and how verifiable credentials are fitting in, and as well as the demand that we're seeing. So fun fact, I've driven through Kansas, I think 3 times, but I don't think I've ever spent more than 5 hours there, but it's on my list. So happy to be here.
Great. So Jerry, tell us about USA Kansas, what it does, and a little bit, after that, a little bit about what is the data life that your daily life in data that you and your members experience. And why, of course, this journey has brought you to verifiable credentials.
Sure, Trevor, thank you for the question. USA Kansas stands for United School Administrators of Kansas. We represent 9 different organizations in the state of Kansas that have the title of administrator in schools within Kansas. And we basically provide professional development for these groups. We also provide a convention at the end of the year that has close to 800 participants in. We also provide advocacy for our administrators in education and support the education advocacy group here in Kansas. We have close to 1,500 members in our organization. So we've got a large group of people that are a part of our organization. And we separate those by those 9 groups. So there's superintendents, there's human resource, there's curriculum and development, and you get the idea of where I'm going, principals, and all different administrators in the state of Kansas. So we provide a lot of different avenues for people to get professional development in the state of Kansas. Leadership, pardon me, leadership is one of those areas that we are focusing on, that we have found that we want our people to be good leaders, because we know that when they are good leaders, they will help support teachers, which only gets better education for our kids. And so we're having huge success with that. We started that about 5 years ago. And so during that time frame, my executive director and I had a conversation about how are we going to show that these people that have gone through our professional development have actually, if passed is the right word, passed our leadership test. And so credentialing, or badges at the time, we started that conversation. So we've been in conversation with how to create credentials for our students, so to speak, that how can we credential them to show that they actually have the skills to move forward with their leadership skills and their leadership role within their building. And so we have been talking about this for quite some time, and then stumbled upon Indicio, and I shouldn't say stumbled, we found you in Indicio for us to be a part of, to help pilot an area of credentialing. And so we have been excited about that, and we're going to continue to move forward with that. And hopefully we'll be able to start showing some credentialing at the end of this year. So be able to assign some of those credentials.
Okay, so take me through so what was wrong with the existing system? You know, how did you, 5 years ago, or even a year ago, or even right now, how, somebody does a leadership course, what do they get at the end of it?
Congratulations, and that was about it. I mean, they did have leadership skills, and we were able to show that they had leadership skills, but quite honestly, we were not able to express that to our state Department of Education. We were not able to show that that to a prospective superintendent that they may be interviewing for, that they had passed this class, or they had gone through the training of our leadership. So we wanted a way to be able to show the State Board of Education and superintendents, or anybody else that may want a credential to show this leadership skills that they now have. We wanted a way to be able to show them that this was the opportunity to go move forward in their careers. And so credentials works perfectly for that, for us, where we're headed. And I think that's going to help us in the long run, as well as all of our members.
So what kind of things would you want to put in a credential? Is it just that you passed, or does it contain more information that's relevant to advancing your job, or a potential employer from a different district who wanted to hire somebody? What do you want to put in the credential? Can they just wave a PDF of, oh, look, I've got a diploma in, advanced leadership?
Well, we like the idea, quite honestly, of being able to show how they are developing through that, and create a credential that, hey, you're developing, another credential of you've met this criteria, another credential, you met this criteria. And then maybe the last credential is you are now in this realm of having an opportunity to move forward with your career. With what we're looking at, Trevor, if I may, we've got a 5-year plan that a group of people can start off with by going through a course that we call Kelly. And basically it's for first-year administrators they can go through this part of that plan. At the end of that year, they would get that credential. Then they would go to Kelly 2. That then would, again, you can see the process that we go through there. After they finish those 2 years, then they would go into another leadership form of, we call it elevate leadership. And so we want to push our students to our administrators to become better administrators. And so all of these classes that we teach is based in research. So we're not just making this stuff up.
Yes. Yeah.
And so McCrell Research helps us in this process of moving people forward with items like purposeful community, trust, leadership skills, and on. And then we have an Elevate 2 as well that expands Elevate 1 and digs deeper. So, and then at the end of it, we have a course called 360 Evaluation. And so basically, our administrators would give our teachers, their teachers, an opportunity to evaluate them. And then we, our administrators or our employees of USA Kansas, would then meet with them one-on-one to go through the skills and the areas that they need to improve. All of these are opportunities to give badges, or excuse me, credentials for, so that.
So it's like the Scouts. It's like being in the Scouts.
Exactly.
And actually,
right.
so Alex M in the chat said, so the challenge is not assessment design, but the transferability of proof of proficiency.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. We've actually struggled with that part of it, trying to get to where we need to be. And I think we finally came through with that about 3 weeks ago. So my executive director sitting in the room. So yeah, it's been a struggle to get to that point, because we know that if we want our administrators to be able to use this for recertification, we've got to meet the state's areas of improvement that they need to have. So that's where we're headed with this as well, so that when the State Department says, all right, send us your credentials, they can just pop the QR code and we're good to go.
Okay. So tell us how you're, what does the pilot project look like?
Well, let me share
how do you explain it to your members?
What we do, let me share my screen, and I'll give you some ideas on what we're doing here. This first screen that pops up is the USA screen. And so we are the ones that are issuing credentials, having the class. So we go through this process. A student, once they have earned this credential, they basically will scan that QR code. And over here on the right is their app. And that's the Holder Plus app. And they basically just screenshot that from their Holder app, which is their wallet. Once they scan that, they'll have to go through some information, add some information, and then they'll be ready to go on to the next screen. Well, the next screen it shows that you've just been given a new credential. And it tells you right there, new credential offered. This one was the USA courses and enrollment. So you click view, it goes over to this USA courses enrollment. And again, this is all customizable, and you'll be able to change things on it as we move forward. And then it goes over, as you accept it, it goes over and it tells you exactly what it was. And that's all the information that's included in that QR code as you move forward, which is pretty slick. The other thing that's really slick about this is that it is on your phone. It's not anywhere else. And so when we talk about verifiable credentials, the exciting part about that is that nobody else has access to this. So that's exciting. And you are the only person that can give that access away. That's exciting. So the next screen here is the verifier. And we've used a school district here in Kansas by the name of Tonganoxie. And they would then, if this superintendent was looking for an administrator and he wanted to see if they had that information of taking the courses in Elevate, 360, and any of that information, they would then offer this QR code, and then that person would scan it again from their wallet, and it would say that the credential issuance and verification is in process, basically. And then the last screen here would show the information has been requested to that person on their phone. They would be able to click view. They would then look at the USA course that they would want to accept at that point. And the next thing, once they click accept, then it simply goes straight back to Tonganoxie to show that, yes, this is the credential that they need. Pretty slick. It's very fast, very quick. And it just makes sense
Right.
for us. And we see
And
that.
do you find, yeah, so it makes sense to you. Does it automate when you clearly now you're still in the early stages of trying this out. When your members do it, they go, oh, it's as if, why haven't I been doing this all along? Or are there obstacles? How do they react to using this?
Well, mainly I've just used it within our office at this point. With the Tonganoxie group, I've used it with them. I've talked with them, but they are excited about the opportunity that this offers, especially in the area of recertification. They think that, especially for administrators in recertification, they think it'll be a great way to show that they now are ready for any building, any district leadership that may come open, that they can show this credential, and they can show that and share with the state of Kansas to be able to basically recertify them for another 5 years. So we're excited about that opportunity.
So really, in many ways, it's like almost being a doctor. You have to keep your certifications up in order to keep practicing.
Yes.
So this is probably, but how many, like what sort of level of interaction goes on here? How many certifications and courses would a typical school administrator mid-career be taking on?
Well, the interesting thing about Kansas and the way that they recertify, they can get professional development points. If they have their master's, they can get 120 points. If they do not have their master's, well, I shouldn't say that, because all administrators in the state of Kansas have to have their master's degree. So they basically would have to get 120 points. The problem that we have in Kansas is that 120 points counts seat time, and they're not necessarily learning anything new. So that's when we started talking about, we've got to provide some leadership skills for our administrators. And hopefully that's the direction that we'll end up, that all administrators will have to go through some type of leadership training to be able to be recertified in the state of Kansas. And so that's kind of the ballpark that we're looking towards to do.
Well, I'm going to bring James in at this point, because it almost seems like out of nowhere, everybody in the educational field is talking about credentialing or badging. You've just been to a conference, James, on this topic. What is your report from the front lines of education on digital credentials? And what's the and particularly well, why don't you start off with that? And eventually, I'm interested in the types of credentials that are being used in terms of verifiable credentials versus open badges, or a combination of both.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, happy to give a report. Speaking of education, reports are reports are part of it, right? So I was at the One EdTech Consortium's Digital Credential Summit in New Orleans 2 weeks ago. And this summit was devoted specifically to digital credentials in the education space. So if you're not familiar with the One EdTech Consortium, They're a membership-based global nonprofit focused on developing the technology standards for education. So think of ed tech providers, like the learner management systems and platforms that universities and elementary schools and other institutions use for for training or for access to schoolwork and to courses. There were also vendors who provide online learning portals. Think like Udemy or other virtual certification platforms. Also, a lot of hiring organizations, HR tech organizations, and so it was a conversation between that entire academia to hiring pipeline, filling the skills gap on the hiring side, and then providing the education on the other end of that. So yeah, my big takeaway was, now that they're moving to this verifiable credential data model with Open Badges 3.0, there's a lot of excitement around it because it can do a lot more than the previous version of Open Badges.
So just tell us a little bit about Open Badges. What are that? Why are they? I mean, I guess from what you just said, people can infer that they're now moving to a verifiable credential model. But what were they before that?
Yeah.
And why are they not staying there? Why is the reason for the evolution?
Yeah, great question. So a little bit of history about Open Badges. So they started, I believe, in around 2011. It first started at the Mozilla Foundation, and they put together the initiative and the specification to make it possible for people to share a digital proof of their skills, accomplishments, proof of competency online. So it's literally a digital badge that you could share on the internet and have others see it, view it, and in a way prove that you did earn that skill or credential. So that was version 1.0 in around 2011. At some point, IMS Global, which is now the One EdTech Consortium, moved that project forward and it moved to 2.0 and now 3.0. The 1.0 and 2.0 models, where it originally started out was an open badge was a human readable badge posted on the internet, and the metadata attached to the image was either hosted on a website or a URL, for example, and you could see that JSON text. So simply a text file that a human could read. In version 2.0, there was a cryptographic signature that showed that was signed by the original issuer. So the metadata within the open badge, that's the really interesting part. That's where you can find out who the badge was issued from, who it was issued to, when it was issued, when it expires, the criteria that was in place to earn that badge, any sort of evidences that could be added to that. However, the problem with 1.0, 2.0 was that although there was a minor form of cryptographic signature, that it could be tampered with. You could the original issuer, because they hosted the JSON text, they could go and they could change that. Not that I don't know if that was a major issue at the time, but there was that need for an extra layer of trust. And so along came 3.0. Which is Open Badges that aligns with the W3C's verifiable credential data model. So from the World Wide Web Consortium that, essentially guides the standards that make up the protocols that we use on the internet, like HTML, CSS, for example. So by aligning Open Badges 3.0 with a globally standardized verifiable credential data model, it was kind of a perfect fit. So another way to, take advantage of the tamper-proof or tamper-evident nature of verifiable credentials, the transportability, and the privacy aspects that come along with that.
So how, in what way, how would you say people are, so Jerry, why did you go for a verifiable credential over a Open Badge verifiable credential, or a Open Badge 2.0, or even a 1.0? What were the key features that were decided you in favor of verifiable credentials?
I think the major factor was that everything is secure. It goes over a network that nobody else has access to. So each individual person will be able to make sure that all of their data is safe. We wanted to make sure that the data, that any type of data that would go back between the issuer or the verifier was going to be in a safe place that nobody could get to. And so that helped us move in the direction that we did.
And that's interesting because, you know, we're often told that people don't really care about privacy. They only care about convenience. But this privacy aspect and security aspect was really important for you. I mean, do you, and obviously for the school districts and that you work with. So any sense of what brought about that change? I mean, if we were all here talking about this 15 years ago, we probably wouldn't be talking about privacy or security as much. So, but I'm curious to hear why that is an issue for you.
We have been pushed by our legislature to make sure that kids' information is secure. Well, if kids' information needs to be secure, why shouldn't ours? And so, quite honestly, that's part of that thought process, that we want to make sure that we can tell our administrators that your information is going to be secure just as your students needs to be secure as well. So what's good for you is going to be good for our adults as well.
Oh, of course. And you know, I obviously, this is something that Indicio is very passionate about. So it's great to hear that. James, what are you seeing in how have you seen, because obviously we're seeing open badges was very popular format. It kind of introduced the idea of credentialing or a digital style credential for, you know, recording academic data or certifications or whatever. How are you seeing the market react to the verifiable credentialization of open badges? And what does it mean? What does that mean for a school district or a university, or, you know, what are the big advantages beyond, say, additional, you know, the privacy and security aspects?
Yeah. Well, first I'll start with the actual holder of the credential. For them, now that an open badge can be issued directly to their, you know, a wallet, or you could call it like a data backpack where they can hold their own credentials, it can now live independent of that original issuing organization. Open badges 1 and 2, for example, if it was hosted on a website that disappeared, you know, do you have proof anymore? Do you own that credential? That was a major concern. So portability of the credential itself. Other driving forces, I would say, you know, the way that we learn and the way that we're hiring has significantly changed. At one of the meetings I went to at the conference, they talked about, you know, the traditional education model in higher education. If bachelor degrees have been around since the 1100s, you go to university, you get your degree, and you go into a trade. Sometimes you continue on into a master's degree and, you know, later on PhD, for example. Nowadays, you know, it's not as clear cut. You know, now that the job markets are changing rapidly, there are specific niche skills gaps that are arising as new technologies emerge. AI, for example, or new cybersecurity certifications, all sorts of needs that companies have where it wouldn't require someone to, you know, go back for a whole new degree to get that. There's are specific concentrated learning experiences that people can do, you know, on a platform like Udemy, for example, taking a training or taking a series of trainings to upskill and to get what they call micro credentials. And those credentials to prove certain level of competency to fill a particular skills gap. So this is more efficient for employers who, you know, are looking to find a very specific skill to fill a very specific need that their organization has. So Open Badges 3.0, the verifiability, the transportability, that's the digital credential infrastructure that makes it possible for people to prove those micro credentials. And I think it allows for learners to tell a more rich story about their education and to curate, you know, show their learning experiences, prove it in a way that they would like to. and have it done in a way that is authenticatable, if that's a word.
Well, of course, it's interesting because it's a push-pull. I mean, if you can authenticate something, then it has value in the marketplace. But without that value, does it even exist in the marketplace? So, I mean, seems to open up the possibilities of lifelong learning, but also mixing and matching from different institutions, and combining them all together and being able to present different packages of skills to employers or yeah. So what else? I mean, obviously, if we can, if we can create sort of verifiable credentials for certifications, what about diplomas? What about course transcripts? Are we seeing verifiable credentials and open badges enter that whole morass of, sort of academic bureaucracy? Jerry, well, I'll ask to Jerry first. I mean, I know you've got one big task ahead of you. So to ask you for, what progress are you making on another big task? But do you see this? If you successfully implement verifiable credentials for, for leadership certification among administrators, it sounds like there's an awful lot of other uses that academia could.
Absolutely right. And we feel the same way that this can be a two-way street, that these credentials that we are giving to our students now, our leaders, can also go back to the universities and be able to use that for credit at the university. And once they have that credential, then they've got that on their phone. The universities have it, that they have passed these courses, and that can also be a part of their transcript, which could also then be converted over to a credential as well. And so those are opportunities that we probably need to jump on, and we need to be asking universities. We do currently work with Kansas State University in that process of having those discussions. And so we're moving in that direction, which I think is exciting. And hopefully we'll get to that point that we need to get to be able to make that work. But that is a major change, to get universities to start looking at the credential aspect rather than just assigning a transcript.
So I've got a very interesting question from Alex M, but I'll just allow James to respond to that. Are you seeing the conference you were recently at, that again was more sort of certification based, but are you seeing the possibility of, are people talking about verifiable credentials for student transcripts and diplomas?
Yeah, they absolutely are. So at the conference, I would say the main focus was the Open Badge 3.0 specification, which follows the VC data model. And there were a significant number of vendors there who are already issuing open badges, most currently doing 2.0, but we're seeing some of the larger credentialing platforms starting to issue open badges 3.0, and several of the larger LMS platform providers allowing for the capability to hold and present open badges 3.0 credentials on the platforms. So to the question of talking about change management and what it takes for them to implement that functionality, I think the market forces are already pushing it in that direction. And Trevor, as you mentioned it, you explained it well. It's that push-pull from both sides. A lot of the discussions were with the curriculum providers and how they were going about implementing credentialing into their curriculum. And many were starting to use them as almost like engagement mechanisms throughout a semester, where, let's say you pass your midterm, okay, you get a credential for this. You demonstrate a particular skill in a particular unit as part of your major, you get a credential for this. So I hate the word gamification, but a way to entice students to stay engaged and to do the things that they need to do to build those competencies, and then get that that fun merit badge to show off, but more importantly to be able to prove later down the road that you have done a certain task. So yeah, to that question, I would say market forces and the incentivization from both sides.
Jerry, I don't know. Go
was gonna
ahead.
say, I might add to that, James. I think you're spot on that, but I also see our demographics changing in people and what they expect. And so much of this is individualized that I see that as a part of the issue, or a part of becoming more and more important to individuals, that I want to have control over what I have, whether it be credentials or whether it is my transcript. I want to have control. I don't want the university to have control over that. So I kind of see that as part of this metamorphosis coming down the road as well. So
yeah. I mean, it sort of makes sense in the sense that the more you can control like, I mean, I dread, obviously I'm a little bit old to be going back to college, but the thought of having to get my transcripts from 3 different colleges is just like, that's the stuff of nightmares after a certain age.
And they charge you quite a bit for it.
Oh,
Download it. Yeah.
One question I want one thing I want to bring up is that, I know, Indicio has an Open Badges 3.0 implementation. We, of course, have been doing verifiable credentials for, since that's our raison d'etre. And one of the key aspects of our verifiable credential system, Indicio Proven, is the ability, what we call the ability to create trusted digital relationships. And that is using secure bidirectional communication. That enables people to have this secure one-to-one engagement. I know we're going to be introducing bulk, sort of the DIDCOM, what we call DIDCOM, to Open Badges 3.0. We're also going to be doing bulk messaging and issuance. James, can you talk to us about, this actually, and the same with verifiable credentials, the sense of, while they are fulfilling very specific functions between parties, this opportunity to have this continuous consent-based engagement raises lots of issues for, the creation and management of alumni organizations, of doing fundraising, of doing events, of all sorts of things that will be that are done now, but they can be done so much more simply and effectively. How do you see this playing out? How do you see these value propositions? That's a question for both of you. How do you see these trusted digital relationships manifesting and playing out in the future?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you want, I can talk a little bit more about the DIDCOM aspect that you mentioned. So there are different situations, different contexts in which different credential types would be relevant. So Open Badges 3.0 do a really good job of making providing a human readable credential that you can show, that you can easily share, but you wouldn't use an open badge to cross a border, for example, or to board an airplane. There's privacy implications. There's trust assurance levels involved. So there are certain credentials that are used in different settings. One thing that Indicio Proven, our software solution, offers is DIDCOM capability, as you mentioned. That's the communication protocol that enables for that bidirectional authentication between two entities, and that enables an ongoing digital relationship and a channel between which you can share information and have rich interactions. Whereas Open Badges, might be simply more of a transactional type thing where you're proving a certain instance in time, a certain competency. So different scenarios for different things. And Indicio, what we're doing is we're enabling all of that for our users to use, depending on the context that they need it in. They need to show, proof of a skill, proof of a course. Here's an open badge to show that. You want to have a rich, relationship with the issuing organization and you as a student. maintain that connection to the university through that DIDCOM channel, to receive, important updates, to have documents sent to you, to interact with whoever at the institution you need to interact with. That's where that would come into play. So different protocols, different credentials for different contexts, and the idea is, let's make them all happen.
Jerry, how do you see, so if you look into your crystal ball, how do you see this technology, not just transforming your own specific place in the educational world, but how do you see it changing education in general? What might we see 5 years down from now?
The crystal ball question is a good one, because that leaves it wide open and makes it exciting to try to answer. But what I would say, that we want quality administrators, we want quality teachers, we want quality people in our schools teaching our kids. I don't care if it's a custodian, a paraprofessional, a cook. Why can't we look at credentialing these people to know that they are good people? They need to come in. They have the skills to come in to whatever it is that they're going to do, and be able to come into our school. And it gives the satisfaction to the Board of Education, to the superintendent, that I know this person has this skill because they've been through this course, or they have this credential as they move forward. So I think it's limitless.
Really, it opens up the whole educational landscape to more participation from people with a wider variety of skills.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. It makes no difference if you're an administrator, or if you're a superintendent, or if you're the custodian that gets the opportunity to clean a classroom. We still need to have those types of peoples in our schools, and they still need to be trained. Well, let's train them, and let's give them the opportunity to have a credential programs that shows that they are skilled. And who knows, down the road, maybe they could go to the local Walmart and show this credential and get 10% off. Something simple like that would be absolutely fabulous.
Well, that's one of the amazing powers of verifiable credentials, is that, because the verifying software can be used on a mobile device, you can bring in so many different partners to create an ecosystem of value for members or teachers or whatever. James, are we seeing, how are we seeing as sort of the verifier ecosystem expand, or has education even grasped the potential there?
It's definitely growing in the education space, because the 3.0 standard was introduced, I think, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when it officially started. It's a slower crawl, but it is starting to take off with academic institutions and on the hiring side. But what we've seen from other industries and use cases at Indicio is anytime that there is a credential that is full of rich information that could be used to quickly pass through some sort of process quicker and reduce friction, then there are verifiers that start to gather around to participate in that ecosystem. And so that's something that I can see happening very easily in the education space as well. Again, as you mentioned, with student discounts, for example, or credentials, for being able to access, let's say, an exclusive event, with college sports teams, for example. There's a lot of partnership programs that currently exist that could benefit from proof of involvement, proof of participation. So I think the sky's the limit when it comes to
it's a great incentive system as well to get people to either join or participate or take courses or get particular skills, is if there's multiplicity of ways in which they can derive simple, seamless benefits from them. But okay, we have about 13 minutes left. I want to throw this topic out for questions. You can either raise your hand and speak, or type your question in the chat. Yeah, any questions for Jerry or James? Key here is how long to do an awkward silence to prompt somebody to reveal what's on their mind.
While people are thinking about their questions, I did want to give an opportunity to plug the Indicio Academy. So if you are interested in this particular topic, interested in decentralized identity, have a team that are working on something in the verifiable credential space, Indicio does offer a series of professional development training workshops. Given by our team of expert engineers who've been around since the beginning. It seems like verifiable credentials. They're very experienced, and it's a great venue and forum to ask questions, specific architectural questions, things that you might be stuck on, your team might be stuck on, etc. So you can find more about it at indicio.tech. But again, in terms of the opportunity to learn and continuing professional development, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up in this setting. So just want to let you know.
So here's a question from Hiroshi. Do you see open badges being used in college diplomas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So, so at the conference, there were a couple conversations where organizations had discussed that they were starting to do that. So there's something called a comprehensive learner record, and this is another standard produced by the One EdTech Consortium. And as part of that, it's essentially the mechanism to collect your credentials in the form of open badges or micro credentials, digital certificates, and among those included were college diplomas in the form of badges, or it could also be presented as a collection of badges and issued in a digital format. So diplomas is certainly a use case that is currently being used, and I believe we're going to see more of that, which I personally think would be really nice. I think so far I've had to call my university 2 or 3 times to have my diploma printed and issued. It cost me, I think, $45 a pop. Not very fun, but I've lost it, in moving or just being misplaced. Would be nice to have it in a digital format.
So another question here, this is from Mahesh, can we find samples of some open badges 3.0 VC credentials at the Indicio website or GitHub?
Ooh, great question. I'll have to check with the tech team on that. I don't know if we've published anything quite yet, but Mahesh, we can get back to you on that.
Yeah, Mahesh, if you want to drop an email to, unless James, if you don't have an email, if you want to drop an email to James, James will get back to you on that. Finally, as we wrap up, Jerry, final thoughts. What's next? So you've got the pilot. What are the steps on the agenda to the fall and or the end of the year rollout?
Well, our biggest thing is to make sure that we clean up and be able to get our classes into Indicio and get that part cleaned up. But more importantly, it's to get our users familiar with what credentials are. We've got an education that we have to do to talk about credentials and how it will benefit them. And we just developed a flyer last week, quite honestly, that we are going to start talking to our members about credentials and how that's going to make their life a little bit easier when it comes to recertification and being able to find a job. Hopefully we're moving in that direction. So that is our opportunity at this point to move forward, and we're right on track to be ready to finish this up by the end of this academic year. So hopefully next year we'll be able, or this year we hope to give to those that are completers of our programs to be able to issue them credentials. And then next year, go full force and credential everybody that gets through our programs.
Excellent, excellent. Any final thoughts before we wrap up for this evening? This evening, depending on where you are. James, anything else you want to tell people about the whole open badges 3.0 verifiable credential revolution in education?
I would just say I'm particularly excited that it still provides a way for people to collect badges and show them. As as a former Boy Scout, it was always really exciting to learn a new skill or learn about something, get a badge, and wear it on my sash. And so it's nice that even though these are machine readable and you don't necessarily need something to display them, that this specification provides for that. So I just thought that was personally cool.
And of course, our implementation will although it's not quite yet, but will allow you to post them on LinkedIn. So it's LinkedIn is the professional equivalent of a Boy Scout sash, basically.
Exactly. So and it's like just overall with the way education is going and the way hiring is going, I think it's revolutionary in the sense that people can become proficient at very specific things for very specific purposes, and that the hiring cycle can be a lot quicker. And I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for individuals that would otherwise maybe not thrive in a traditional higher education setting, or the idea of lifelong
working
learning.
working part-time and want to take it step by step rather than have to do a 3 or 4 year.
Exactly. So Alex, can I get a badge for attending this talk? That would be awesome.
Soon. That we're coming soon to the Indicio meetup. Jerry, thank you. I know you said you're coming down with a bit of a cold, so thank you for being so vocal about what the work you're doing. To you, the penultimate word, because the final word is with Helen, who's going to talk about the next Indicio meetup, but final words on digital credentialing in education.
We are just excited about this opportunity that we are going to be able to give our administrators. So I'm hoping that it will be life-changing to them, so that they know that the skills that they are learning will just be exactly what they need, and that's leadership skills. So
thank you. Over to Helen.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you all for a great conversation. So before we end today, thank you all for joining. I did want to announce our next meetup, which will be next month on April 30th. We always conduct these on the last Tuesday of the month. April has quite a few Tuesdays in it, so it's I think it's about 5 weeks away, just about. But it will be after the Internet Identity Workshop, IIW, that happens twice a year in California, where a bunch of the identity folks come together, digital identity folks come together, and talk about the direction of the industry and work on interesting projects. I know that there's going to be a lot of talk around DIDCOM, around OpenID for VC, EIDAS, all kinds of great topics from a global community. And so on April 30th, we will be picking up that thread and talking about with Sam Curran on our team, who is co-chair of the Hyperledger Aries working group. He also chairs the DIDCOM working group, and he will be here talking about the advancements of DIDCOM and how DIDCOM will be able to work in tandem with OpenID. So it's a very exciting, very exciting topic if you're on the developer technical side of the house. And if you're not, please come, because there's, if you're on the business side of the house, this offers a huge amount of value for individuals who are looking to build products that are in line with the new EIDAS requirements. in Europe, but at the same time want to, have that that real business value of communicating with established contacts and verifiable credentials. So it'll be a great talk, especially if you're in deep in the industry. So I encourage you to join us then. So in the meantime, thank you all for your time. Keep the conversation going on Meetup, on the Meetup page. And with that, we'll let the call go. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.